Hey, good morning. Happy Monday, ladies and gents. Tyler Hankins, TH Property Group, Keller Williams. We're here at the Misfits Barbershop, 135 in Greenwood. We're doing our weekly cleanup. So, as we've been playing around with these videos over the last few weeks, been trying to kind of find the right formula. I think what we're gonna do, we're gonna try this out. So we're gonna do more broad topics. So stuff that really, whether you're buying a house in Shelbyville or you're buying a house in Greenwood or you're buying a house in Arkansas or Florida or whatever, this should be stuff that kind of pertains to everybody. Now I need to throw out the disclaimer, I am licensed in Indiana. So if you are looking to buy a house outside of the state of Indiana, make sure you shoot me a message. I can get you hooked up with somebody that is state specific. There are widespread general real estate facts and knowledge and that sort of thing, and then there are things that are obviously state specific. So just that little disclaimer there. I am licensed throughout the state of Indiana, so just throwing that out there. So we're going to talk today about first-time buyers. It's a niche that I've had since I got started. A lot of you watching, I may have helped you buy your first house. So first-time buyers is a group of folks that I have a lot of love for. It's really special being a part of that first house. There's a lot of emotions involved. There's excitement. There's anxiety. There's fear of doing the wrong thing. There's a lot. So having the right representation on hand for your first is, well, really for any, but for your first is super important. So that would be the first place to start, is finding your team. But if we're gonna get super specific, then we're gonna talk about finding your lender. Getting that pre-approval letter, getting your financing in place is going to be the absolute first thing that you need to do when you're looking to buy a house. You probably already started looking on Zillow, Realtor, whatever site you like to look at houses. You've probably already done that. You do that whether you actually think you're gonna buy a house anytime soon or not. So that's kind of the first step, but it's not really the first step. If you're actually looking to buy a house, if that is like a goal, something that you foresee really sometime in the next, even if it's like a year, 2-year plan, I would say at that point it makes sense to go ahead and get hooked up with a loan officer. There's so much fact finding involved in that little first step portion that it's really hard to do yourself justice and make this process as smooth as it can be if you skip that step, if you don't do that first. Setting yourself up for potential heartache, finding a house that you really love that doesn't work for you one way or another because of a financing thing. So getting hooked up with a loan officer is going to do a couple of things. So most of them do things pretty similar. Most of them at this point have an online application that you can fill out, that you're going to give some kind of basic information, obviously name, where you currently stay, some employment information. The main purpose, what it really does, is it gives them the green light to pull your credit. All right, so that's going to be the first step. They're going to take a look at your credit and see where you're at. They're going to take a look at, they'll pull from all 3 bureaus. They'll use the middle score. So they won't use your highest, they won't use your lowest, but they will use that one that's right smack dab in the middle. Now, freeannualcreditreport.com. So I actually was just in a meeting last week with a credit repair specialist, and that was her recommendation. So if you're wanting to check your score, kind of get a baseline on where you're at, don't use Credit Karma, or freeannualcreditreport.com is what she said is the most accurate. I have plenty of stories of folks who thought that they were in the 700s because of Credit Karma, and then a loan officer pulls their score and they're actually in the low 6s, some of them even in the 5. I mean, it can be pretty far off. Sometimes they're not, but it can be pretty far off. So it's hard to take some of those scores as anything more than fluff. So it's really important to get with a loan officer, but if you do want to check it on your own first, that would be the site to go to. It's freeannualcreditreport.com. But a loan officer is going to pull your score from all 3, and then they're going to be able to see where you're at. They're going to be able to see where you're at right this second, and they're going to be able to tell you whether or not you could do something right now. You might be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, however much time you need to get your affairs in order, they're going to be able to get you a roadmap, which is what is so important. Credit is kind of tricky. Like, it's not, they don't make it simple, and they don't make it simple on purpose. So it's nice to have a roadmap, to know what is the most efficient way to get where you need to go. Because like I say, credit can play tricks on you. You can think that paying off something can be good for you, and actually it can be bad, or you don't know what is going to do the most good for you. So having some help from somebody who looks at it every day and can tell you exactly what is going to do the most good for you can save you a lot of money, can save you a lot of time, can save you a lot of heartache. So that's step one. So if you're not even ready right this second, talking to a loan officer right now can get you on the fast track. It can get you there the quickest, and with the least amount of pain. Now, if they look at your credit and everything's good, at that point you'll have some other stuff that you need to provide them: pay stubs, bank statements, things of that nature. Essentially, all the information that you just gave them on the application, they're going to need to see documentation to prove it. They're not going to take your word for it. They're going to need to see it on paper. So they want to see positive job history. They want to see that you've made all your payments on time. They want to see that you've got some money in the bank. They want to see what kind of buyer you are, and that's going to help them determine what kind of loan program is the best fit for you. Now, Indiana, we have a variety of programs. Indiana Housing offers a variety of programs that offers a lot of benefits to first-time buyers, namely some down payment assistance. So there are programs that basically they will gift you your down payment. So if it's an FHA loan, they'll gift you the 3.5%, and that's money that you'll get in the form of a grant. And as long as you live in the house for as long as they say, normally it's like 2 to 3 years. If you live in the house for that amount of time, that gift money is forgiven. You don't have to pay that back. Now, if something changes, you need to move in a year or something along those lines, they'll just prorate it. So every day you're there, you are paying that amount down. So super helpful. And there are some counties, Shelby County being one of them, that are considered targeted counties. It doesn't matter how many houses you've bought, as long as it's going to be your primary residence, you can qualify for those programs. So that's kind of a neat thing, and something that we work with a lot. Lender I use the most often is Brad Luck's team with Fairway Mortgage. They kind of specialize in those Indiana housing programs. There are a gang of lenders that do offer them, but that's something that we use with first timers quite a bit. That cash to close can definitely be one of the bigger obstacles for a first time buyer. So we find ways around it. We find ways to make it happen. But that's all stuff that we can figure out when we get with the lender. They're going to set you a pre-approval amount. We'll kind of talk about monthly payment, what you feel the most comfortable with. Really, in my opinion, it's generally easier when you're talking about trying to find your price range and all that. I find it easier if you have an idea what you're comfortable with on a monthly basis to look for a monthly payment rather than looking for a purchase price. When you look at your mortgage payment, it's actually made up of a couple of different factors. So it can be a little dicey to just look for a purchase price. Now, you should probably be in the ballpark, but there's homeowners insurance and property taxes are also included in your mortgage payment, and those can vary depending on the house. The age of the house, the updates, things of that nature. Those prices can fluctuate up and down a little bit. So if we are looking based on your monthly payment, what you're comfortable paying, then at that point we can kind of fine tune things, and we can go house by house and figure out what if a particular place is actually going to be in your range or not. So everything starts with the financing. Everything starts with the lender. It's just how it goes. So if you're looking for a house, you haven't looked for a house before, or maybe you have, that's the place you want to start, is with the lender. After that, we're off to the races. After that, it's the house hunt, it's the going and looking, it's the finding. Most people, I usually tell folks the first time that I sit down with them to look, we want to keep your wish list somewhat specific, but also not too constricting, right? I mean, if you get too specific, you might, unless you have all the time in the world, right? So it depends on motivation and where you're at and what you need and this, that, and the other. But for the most part, I try to keep your wish list somewhere in like the 3 to 5 item range. Like that's a nice boundary for us to make sure we're looking at stuff that you're going to be interested in. But also we're not like tying ourselves to one specific type of house. Gives you a little bit of room to grow. You're gonna find as you look at houses, you're gonna be able to find like what's that stuff that's most important to you. A lot of people say that they're willing to do some work, and then we look at some houses that need some work and they don't really want to do much work, you know, that sort of thing. So you really need to get into some houses, and that kind of helps us narrow down exactly what it is you're really looking for. Once we get that, once we find you a house, from pending to close typically takes about 30 days, 30 to 45 depending on the loan type. And that's where we'll go through inspections and appraisals and all of that, which we will, you know, as we get into these weekly videos, we'll go into more detail on all of that. I really want to make these an educational based, instead of getting too specific into my business specifically. So we're gonna make these like we're gonna pick a topic every week and we'll kind of do a deep dive. But so this one is our first. We're talking about first-time buyers and how to get started in the process, and that's really it. Like, I mean, you need to talk to a lender. I mean, it sounds super simple, and it is, because nothing about this process has to be that hard. But you have to go about it in the right order, or else you're gonna put yourself behind the 8 ball. So financing is first. It's always first. No matter how you plan to buy a house, whether it's cash, whether it's financing, you know, there's multiple different loan types, but it doesn't matter what you're buying, land, house, investment property, whatever the case may be, we got to figure out your financing first. So that's about it for the video today. We're at the Misfits Barbershop here on 135. Man, Jason just got me nice and shiny. I appreciate everybody tuning in. You can find this on our YouTube page, and we will see you next week. All right, everybody, have a great week.